PCA community, welcome. It is Monday and it is Kapok Tree week here at PCA. As you're listening to this and you're like, what's the Kapok Tree? Well, if you're in preschool or had a child in preschool, you know exactly what I'm talking about because it's been around for a little while. And I have 3 guests with us today to share about what the Kapok Tree is and its impact. And I can't wait for you all to get to hear them, and I can't wait to hear them myself. So if I could, would you all just introduce yourselves to us in whichever way, shape, or form you want? And we'll start off with on my right. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I am Harley Tuttle. I am a preschool teacher and the preschool director, and I have been a part of PCA now for 8 years.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sue Long, Miss Harley's teaching aide, and I have been a part of PCA for 34 years.
Hi, everybody. I'm Beth Slater. I am the polywog teacher in the preschool, and I have been a teacher at PCA this is my 19th year, but I was a parent 6 years before. So I've been a part of PCA as the family for 25 years.
And I think I'm just looking around the table. I just realized we've all been PCA parents. It's some way, shape, or form. Some are still PCA parents. And I don't know where I was going to go with that. Oh, how many of you had preschool kids come through preschool?
I did.
So, yeah, I think you're the...
No, not this. Nope. I was from Alpha, the original feeder.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But Miss Sue has a grandchild in the preschool.
Oh,
and she will be in it this year. That's right.
There we go. So I think, this goes to at least the reason why we're talking about this today is because there's so much that happens at PCA, and we have 3 years old up to 6'5", right? And 18-year-olds. And we're going to be talking about the Kapok Tree and the program that is, ladies and gentlemen, do not mistake preschool is not daycare, not to take anything away from daycares because we need those. This is real school and it's wonderful education. I can't wait for you all to hear a little bit more about this. So could you all share the story behind the Kapok Tree and what's its purpose?
I can go back as far as the beginning.
Okay.
I was there for the first year. It was a vision of the director at that time, which was Ann Kimball. She had been a classroom teacher and then became the director. We were building the curriculum at that time. We were still trying to cement our themes, and we decided to do one for the rainforest.
Okay.
And she, being an avid reader and loving children's books, had found the Kapok Tree. So this is her baby.
Okay.
So we started that.
So this Kapok Tree is children's literature. I'm actually looking at it right here.
Yep,
so it's an amazing book.
It's a book by Lynn Cherry.
Okay. And it's got a little badge on there.
Oh, that's mine.
That's yours.
That
All
says
right.
it's my book.
I thought that. It's this bright golden foil, ladies and gentlemen. I was like, wow. It's an award winner from the Sue Long Library.
It is.
That's what it is. That's great. Yeah. So you're submitting the curriculum, and where'd it go?
So she took the book and simplified it down to the play. And that was, we think we determined the first play was 2001.
Okay.
At that time, the children not only did the parts, but as part of the curriculum, they did their own costumes. They made their costumes, and then they wore them in the play and got to take them home. And at that time, we did it in the preschool.
Down. Where was the preschool back in those days?
It was still the same place.
Same place. Yep. So 2001, we were on this campus. We come up from Dover.
Yes.
And it's down there, and they made their own, the parents, and obviously they made their own costumes.
The children did their own right in the classroom. That was a part of our curriculum.
Okay. So people may not know, obviously, what's a Kapok Tree?
So, it's a very large tree that grows in the rainforest.
Okay.
You can find some in Florida.
Yeah, I was going to say
really?
there's one in Florida especially.
Fun fact, we've had at least 3 alumni students who have texted us pictures when they've been on family vacations of them with a real-life Kapok Tree.
Oh, real one.
As they reflect back on their time in preschool. Yeah.
And when you say the students used to make their own costumes, what costumes are they making? I mean, who are they?
Well, we have porcupines.
Okay.
And we used to create their costumes out of construction paper or cardboard and straws and brown paint.
Okay.
And we'd make headbands, and they used little egg cartons for nose pieces that would wrap around their heads. So we had porcupines, we had a sloth carrier, That has changed now to an actual sloth where children can be a sloth instead of just carry one. I think Miss Sue actually made the original sloth out of paper bags. And paint.
So the kids are all characters in the rainforest.
Based on what's happening in the book.
So we have toucans, macaws, sloths, we have boa constrictors, we have porcupines and anteaters, we have tree frogs, we have some howling monkeys who do a great job as they
Do they howl?
They're supposed to. Yeah. They howl a lot in the preschool, but something about that stage can sometimes change things.
Okay.
And then we also have in the story for the cast, we have the big man who is leading the little man into the forest. And the little man's assignment is to chop down the great kapok tree.
Ooh.
And all of these creatures start to speak to the little man because he's nodded off due to the humidity and the hum of the rainforest. And as he is sleeping, all of these creatures approach him and they speak to him and tell him why the rainforest is so important and why he should not cut it down. So every group of animals has one line, and the line is, do not chop down that tree.
Okay.
And so you will hear that line a lot, especially right now throughout the preschool as we get ready for our production. But the thing that's really cool about this story is this goes back to how we can reconnect to our September curriculum, which is creation.
Right.
And so as we talk about the rainforest, we talk about who made the rainforest. Yeah. And we talk about how the big man wants the little man to cut it down. And in the story, it talks about how everything depends upon one another. We talk about how God created all of us and how God wants us to take care of his creation. So it's really a beautiful kind of full circle moment for us, this being the end of almost end of our school year.
Right.
And then creation being at the very beginning.
Yeah. So as you try to make that connection with your students, how do you see them make the connection? You all have done it many years. So what's the impact on your students as they take this on? Yeah.
Well, I think it depends on the kiddo.
Sure.
So at this point, because there's so much reflecting throughout the year on everything that we've taught, and there's a lot of scaffolding involved in our teaching. So for them, making the connection back to creation is really easy for them at this point in time.
Yeah.
But what's neat for them is still when they have some of those like aha moments about, oh, maybe I didn't think about something that way before, or I didn't even know that this was something that existed. So that part is pretty cool. I think the other thing that's really neat to see for impact on the kiddos is we have lots of sibling families. Right. And as Sue and Beth shared, this is a tradition that's been going on for 24 years.
Right.
And obviously it has morphed, which we can talk about later. It's morphed over time. But what's really, really neat is our littles now know the role that their siblings played. Oh, yes. Like they'll be like, well, my sister was a bumblebee. So it's just really cool to see how much the play has impacted families.
Right.
And what that means for the little ones coming in and maybe the idea that they have for who they might be in the play.
Do you generally find that younger siblings want to be what their older siblings were, or is it often separate, or does it just vary on the
I think it's a combination of both. Again, it depends on the family and how close they are with their sibling. The one thing I really like is that, you may not see the connection in the child until years later when they do see their sibling be another animal or something, and they'll come back and they'll say, I remember this, or, this is where this was really important to me. The connection may not be necessarily made as a preschooler, but later on in life.
It's interesting. Yeah, how these seeds that you all plant really.
And it's interesting to speak to both parents and the upper school students. A lot of them will tell you, they remember exactly what they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
That is wonderful.
Yeah. What a real opportunity just to see this maybe play out, not just in a given year, which you are obviously trying to make connections, but also I just hear you talking about this is multi-year. This is going to unfold over time, which is really neat. So it's a little bit of a hint of maybe toward how we see God at work in our lives generally. But is there any, both in the year, I know we're in the Easter season. I know this isn't directly tied to Easter, but just how do you see God working through the story and the dramatization by your students?
I think one way I see him so clearly is just the joy, curiosity, and wonder around the learning right now, because it's become so incredibly hands-on.
Yes.
They're thinking about taking on this role, and they know that they're going to be on a stage that's being transformed. And I mean, we have a countdown going on.
Okay.
So the curiosity and the joy right now, it's palpable down there. And so I think that that's one way that I see him and can feel him very clearly. And then I think another way, we were talking about this, the three of us were talking about this earlier today, is every year you have some kiddos who are so reserved and maybe a bit shy. And we talk all the time about kids growing into their God-given potential. And so what's so neat is that there's something about this that allows them to take on this new role with confidence. And so we have some kiddos who want to step into a role that might be the one and only role. So in the story, there's a little man and there's a Yanomamo child from the tribe. And so those are just two individual roles. And we were just talking, Beth was talking about a kiddo in her class this year who she would never expect would want to have that individual role, and how she was very excited and wanted to take it on. So it's cool to see him putting boldness into our preschoolers and them kind of stepping into that already.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's some stepping in that you may not have expected. And that must be really exciting to see.
And it shows the growth that they build throughout the year, and how exciting for us that they do have that kind of confidence, and that they are growing throughout the year, and that what we have done really has helped them get there.
Just on that growth trajectory that you're talking a little bit about, Beth, I think I'm thinking back to when I'm aware of when they sort of get to come out and do something big. This is clearly the biggest of the year, but I think of Thanksgiving and pray. Are there other times when they get to come out and do things like this? I mean, this is obviously a big step up, but sort of the progression they have of...
No, there's really...
I think Mother's Day is probably the next biggest event that we hold, where they actually celebrate their moms.
Right.
Okay. And Easter, where we celebrate, Jesus's resurrection.
Right.
Yeah. But it's not as big of an event. It's more just each classroom, we do our own things.
Right. And that's true for our Thanksgiving thing too.
Yeah.
Like Thanksgiving, they reenact.
Right.
But that's at a class level. So it's a much more intimate setting where I think they probably feel a bit more secure. So it's nice that we start that way, and then we...
So then we
go
again.
Exactly. No, it's great.
And then go back down.
So grateful that we'll give them those opportunities, but also, bigger stories, but also personalize it in terms of the faith and their mother, and just what wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not seen the Kapok Tree production, it is, even in my time here, it's taken on a new order of magnitude. And I know, or I sense, I do know actually, but if you look at it, you go, are these preschool teachers who work so hard, are they actually doing all this? You have some volunteers that are helping you. So tell us about how all this comes together.
So this never would have happened actually without amazing parents and volunteers. So as mentioned earlier, the Kapok Tree used to be performed right down in the preschool. And we are so grateful that we've been so blessed with our numbers growing over these past few years. But with that came the really big challenge of, how will we have 56 families watch this production in preschool? Where will people even go?
Right.
And so we started saying about the NPR, and then we had a small group of moms who said, what if we could get the stage? And we were like, okay, what if we could? And so we started talking to people here and said, could we book the stage? And we just had this one amazing mama who said, I could do the set design. I have a vision of how I can make the Kapok Tree. We put together a meeting. Sue took the lead on that with the parents, and they created an Amazon wish list of all of the things they would need to make this vision come to life.
Okay.
And that first year that happened, that was completely taken care of by families. Everything off the Amazon list was purchased. The Kapok Tree frame was built. It is this very elaborate, gigantic wooden structure that I still could not envision as our lead worker was talking about it. I was still like, how's this going to work? We had parents step into the role of costume makers. So those costumes that Beth talked about and Sue talked about how the kids made them, some of those were still being used 3 years ago. So they have lasted. They had little paper mache tree frog heads. So we had a group of parents who completely redid the costumes.
Oh, wow.
And again,
Good.
all on beautiful donations. And we have these amazing costumes that will now truly last.
Yeah.
We've kind of upgraded them. And so they don't get to keep them, but they wear them for the production. And then we might make some tweaks along the way if, we notice that hats are falling down. But yeah, it was all parents who really had this vision for taking it from the basement, as we joke, from the basement to the big stage.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand that gym, big stage theater, that is prime real estate.
Yes.
It's so hard to get in there because so many things are happening. So,
It's true.
Yeah, that's really, really neat.
Yeah, and that just kind of speaks to the teamwork that happens inside our school as a whole, because there's, our play is on a Thursday, the next day kindergarten has a chapel. And so we're connecting with each other about practice times, and it's a great spirit of everybody wanting to support it. And I think one of the things that makes it extra exciting for our kindergarten teachers is they know that the kids they have this year, a lot of them were in it last year.
Right.
So when we do our dress rehearsal, we invite lower school to come and watch us.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, it's another way to bring everybody together.
It really, really shows a community feel. Everybody gets involved throughout the school. Parents, students, staff.
Facilities, sets up the chairs.
Yeah. So, it really brings a feeling of community, which I feel like is why a lot of people come to PCA.
Yeah, you're right.
For the community.
Yeah, one of the things I hear you all talking about is just how you bring parents into what you're doing. Obviously, we're talking about the Kapok Tree, but just talk about you all. I know you each well enough and your colleagues well enough to know that you have a real heart, not only for your kids, but for their parents. So just talk a bit about just maybe how the Kapok Tree, but in just general about how, Beth, you were talking about building community and your vision for walking alongside these parents in this season of their parenting lives. What does that look like for you? What's a highlight for you?
For me, it's just being able to share the joy in the growth that their children have had through the year. Being able to sit at a conference and share how they didn't know letters or, really were having trouble with numbers or something at the beginning, to where they're recognizing and they're starting to blend those letters together to form words. And, just the growth that they have had this year is just the highlight of how I get to share with the families.
Yeah.
Because
you get to highlight, they can see things in ways that you help them see.
Right.
Wow.
Through teaching strategies, we have pictures that we get to show and the progress that they have made. We actually have documentation that we can share with them. And that, I think, helps to just bridge the gap with families in school and home and school and allows us to share in that joy together.
That's neat. Thanks for doing that. Susie, you want to add?
I do. One of the things that I enjoy the most throughout the whole year is tapping into those parents that are volunteers and finding the ones with the gifts.
Yeah.
Who can do the sewing, or maybe someone that has the gift of painting or whatever. There was a time, the first couple of years we did this, when Mrs. Kimball was the director, she was not a public speaker. So Sharon Gamble was one of our readers
Okay.
So I love the idea of tapping into people, their gifts, their heart, and then bringing them all together.
Yeah. Everybody can see how they can contribute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's that little piece they carry with them. So
yeah, it's a really important piece. We've touched on it a little bit, but let me just sort of, again, broadly, whether it's through Kapok and the whole lead up and the event and maybe even post event, but just how do you see God at work in these young people's lives, these young kids and their families, and that you all get a chance to steward and introduce them to? Any highlights maybe this year or around this event?
I think one of the things that's I'm always a first talker, so I'm practicing being a second talker. I think just one of the things that, and I might have already said this, but just thinking about this idea of wonder and wonderment. And
Yeah.
just this age, they're so excited about learning and to have it be such a tangible way. I think the other thing that's really neat to see at this particular stage in development is that the connections that children are forming are happening so much quicker. So in the start of the year, sometimes you're introducing topics to them for the very first time. And so there's a lot of processing that's going on with that. There's some questions they have about what we're teaching. And now they've had time to dig into that. So now as we try to make things, kind of come together full circle and close that for them, just hearing what their understanding is, hearing their questions now, hearing their challenges now, that's pretty cool when they kind of challenge in a very respectful way, but might challenge your thinking with a question. It's just really neat to see the growth that they have. And again, it comes from just being so excited about something, knowing that this is a really big deal. And I think that they're all they can't wait for it to happen. And they're really proud to show off what they've been learning about.
Yeah. You touched on something that I think is more profound. And that, for ladies and gentlemen, just sort of thinking, I was just up at the upper school right before recording this and talking about some other things with another group of students. But one of the things that really strikes me is this idea of wonder, right? So I was reading recently that what will sustain our faith growth, our faith journey over our lives, is if we can sustain a wonder of who God is. And as you know, the world beats down on us pretty hard, right? Life can be really hard, but that is actually learned. And what I hear you all doing is you're not only introducing it to these 3 and 4-year-olds and just helping that to grow and fostering it. We try to do that all the way through. It changes clearly, as we go through life. But I was thinking that often for parents who are often in that stage of life when it's just hard, right? They have young children, they may have babies, they have pressures at work. How are they making things meet? Life is bearing down on them. That one of the great ways that God works is He helps us see through our children this wonder. And how about you? It changed my world as a young dad. Like, wow, I can't be a little boy again, but I can see my own children do it. And when you have people like you who just bring this up and point to God and what He's doing and who He is, what a joy. And just to be a part of the community that has people who are, you help bring the wonders in the room, you help bring it alive and through your kids. And I hope moms and dads, you can do that. I know as I approach 60, that that's been a real theme. To hold, Sue and I were talking a little bit, be a grandparent, right? So Christy and I became grandparents. I will tell you to hold your own grandchild again, even to hold any baby, but then to hold your own grandchild, it's like the wonder returns, like, whoa. Anyway, so cool. Well, thank you for highlighting that. Any other ways you're just seeing God at work down among your students or your families or even among each other, right? As colleagues down there?
Yeah, not focus on the Kapok Tree. I think one of the coolest things this year with our particular little homeroom is prayer. We have a really faithful little group of prayer warriors in our classroom. The frogs are some mighty prayer warriors this year. And they are so good at they know when somebody's not present. Okay. They'll look around the room and they'll say, so-and-so's not here today. We should pray for him and make sure that he's feeling well.
That's great.
But they follow up with it. So that's the thing that's really been cool for me to see is just their level of being able to pray, like knowing they can go to God with anything, but also their understanding that they're recognizing prayers that He's answered. And I think I haven't necessarily ever had that happen before with 4 and 5-year-olds. And it really got kicked off by one little boy in our class who came in really excited one day and said, Miss Harley, God answered my prayer because my so-and-so is feeling better. And after he did that, it kind of set the stage, and then other people were starting to pick up on that. So now after they've asked for prayer about things, they're also sharing when those blessings are being answered. It's pretty cool.
Wow, that is really neat. Really neat. Okay, back to Kapok. We're going to close it out. Specifically, give me that we haven't talked about already, a most memorable moment in sort of our flashback years of doing this for 23 years. This is you're 24. So in the 23 prior years or however many you've been involved, funny, inspiring, crazy.
I think the first thing I can think of was the first year it was on stage. I wasn't actually able to be there because I was sick. So somebody took my class, and I remember my Yamonamo child
Okay.
walking across the stage and just living it up, waving to everybody, bowing to everybody, just making it his own.
Yeah.
And this child, I mean, it is his personality to be that way, but to do it in front of everyone
Yeah.
and just to see the confidence he had at that moment it was just funny for me to see. Endearing, very endearing.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
How about you, Sue?
For me, the first, us going up to the big stage was very big, not just for the children, but for me personally. It was like all of our hard work is going to be appreciated by everyone, not just our immediate families. The first year that we put it on our stage, I did send the link to Lynn Cherry, the author.
Oh.
And she got to see what we did. And I told her the history of how many years we've been doing it and whatnot. And she joyfully wrote back and appreciated. So for me, that was a highlight because,
I can imagine.
you know, the story's she's been kind of important for a while. So I think that was a big deal for me.
Well, I'm so glad that, isn't it fun to hear from the author?
Oh, it was great.
Is she also the illustrator or no?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, she is the author and illustrator.
That's really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Where's she live?
Maryland. She's very close by.
Okay. That's really, how about you, Ro?
So my most memorable is when we went up to the big stage and when they pulled the curtains open and literally the audience gasped.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's like a Disney production.
This
That's
is
the
a
joke.
joke.
That is the joke around here. It looks like Disney has shown up and blessed us with their set design. It's unbelievable. So for me, it was just, we worked so hard to keep the stage hush-hush too. We didn't want anybody to see it until the big day. But to hear the people gasp.
Yeah.
And then to even watch the kiddos, even after we'd already done dress rehearsal. But when they come across that stage, like they are still in such awe of what they're walking into. So that's my favorite thing every year is just hearing the crowd's reaction and then just watching them as they come out and they're filled with awe looking up around them, but then also finding their parents in the crowd. So
that's really cool. All right. Let's talk a little about the future. So big production. So everybody's going to listen to this Monday the 24th. This will be on Thursday.
The 27th.
The 27th.
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
in
the
gym.
On the big stage.
On the big stage. All right.
Yeah.
Well, good. So even looking beyond that, it sounds like you all may have some plans for the future. Share a little bit of what may be coming beyond.
Well, we have some big hopes for the future.
Okay.
So for next year in particular, it is the 25th anniversary of PCA Presents the Great Kapok Tree. So we are really hoping to connect with past students and families and collecting some photographs. We'd really love to do a really nice big timeline in the gym lobby to show the transformation over time from the guest readers to the costumes. And Sue has already laid the foundation with great communication with Lynn Cherry, but we want to invite her to our 25th. And maybe even ask her to read the story. So
that's a hope.
That's a hope. Yeah. So we're really looking forward to, in particular for next year, really reaching out to some of our alumni. And we also would like to reach out to some of our upper school students and maybe have them come support in some way, whether it's
being the trees.
being a tree, or I don't know if they want to go back to being a tree frog. I'm not really sure. But what was cool to us is the first time that we brought it upstairs, there was a group of 8th grade students who were in there watching our dress rehearsal. And a couple of them came over afterwards to Beth and Sue, and they were like, it's not fair. When we were down there, it wasn't like this. And so it was just kind of funny to hear them. I mean, they were joking, but I think they also just thought it was really special. So it'd be neat if we could find a way to somehow reach out to some of those kids who...
Especially the ones from 2020 who didn't actually get a chance to perform the Kapok Tree.
Because I was just, you all were probably reflecting like I was.
We were like
so it was
2
the
weeks away.
13th of March.
Yes.
The Friday was the day we said, hey, we're not coming back Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And that impacted the Kapok production.
They're 4th graders this year. So
Wow. Yeah. Well, I hear your heart for them.
Yeah.
And, okay.
They've not been forgotten.
Not forgotten. Okay. Well, that's a lot to hope for, and
It is.
but it all seems in the realm of doable and connecting the community again and telling the story and how God works through our hopes and our dreams and our prayers. So, any final thoughts to the community about Kapok?
You should come.
Yeah.
It's not only for preschool parents. It is an open event. Doors will open at 9:30.
There we go. We'd love to see you there.
We would love to see you there.
I think you'll be really, really encouraged as well, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you, the three of you and your colleagues, for investing in eternity through the lives of our 3, and 4, and 5-year-old students and for their families. And we're so grateful for you. And we celebrate with you that on this really big event, for a more public event, but there's so much good that's happening down in your classrooms and on your playground, which I am looking forward to getting finished this spring, because I know how long you all have. And I know we don't have a Kapok tree out there, but that maybe someday we have another type of tree that they can stand underneath. But God bless you all. And ladies and gentlemen, we hope we see you this Thursday at the Kapok Tree performance. Keep praying for us. And we thank the Lord for all of you. God bless you. See you on campus soon.